Hi guys, welcome back to Sacred Vedic Astrology. My name is Samantha and I am a professional Vedic astrologer. So today we have a very important topic in Vedic astrology, which is going to be the energy of Rahu in the chart. So I did a previous video where we delved into K2, which is more of that liberation energy, right? K2 is where we go to find spiritual liberation. K2 is the energy of the void of the chart. K2 is also something that's strange, it's spiritual, it's metaphysical, it's otherworldly. And Rahu is the exact opposite of that energy. So Rahu in Vedic astrology is very much that materialistic energy. It's ego, it's power, it's drive, it's success, it's ambition, it's worldly desires, it's obsessions, it's addictions. And Rahu is always going to show us where we can have a lot of karmic unraveling to do in this lifetime. All right, so the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, are always going to point us in the chart or in transit or when it's conjunct personal planets or when it's conjunct someone else's personal planets in synastry, where we have a lot of karma to unravel and work through in this lifetime. All right, so Rahu and Ketu are those shadowy grahas. They're not actually planets, right? But they are very shadowy and elusive and at times hard to understand how they're actually going to unravel in the physical world because they are so up and down and so strange in that way. I was talking to another Vedic astrologer, Hannah, on my videos recently, and we were talking about how hard it is to even grasp the understanding of Rahu and Ketu in Vedic astrology, where you can kind of think that you've gotten a solid understanding of Rahu and Ketu, and then it sort of eludes you in that way. So it's really funny, as a student of Jyotisha, it's something that you're always trying to unravel is like, what is Rahu and Ketu going to do in transit in the natal chart? And, it can be very unpredictable when it comes to Rahu. Ketu energy, especially Rahu. Rahu is very unpredictable energy. All right, so let's get into how we can try to understand Rahu in the chart, in transits, in the dasha sequence, conjunct personal planets, and we're going to break it down. All right, so Rahu is the energy of extremes, obsessions, illusions, deception. Rahu is also ego and power and worldly success. So if someone has strong Rahu energy in their chart, if they're going through a Rahu dasha and their Rahu is well placed, they can absolutely reach fame and they can reach really high points of success. They can go to really great, places in their career, in their work life, because they're going towards that Rahu energy, which is that materialistic plane that we exist in, right? K2 is that Moshka energy. So K2 is something that is beyond us. It's hard to grasp. It's hard to understand. It's hard to hold on to because it's so innately spiritual. All right. Rahu is something that is more physical. It's more tangible. It's more of this physical existence, right? So when we're going through a Rahu dasha, we can find ourselves really seeking that material success. We can find ourselves seeking, financial security. We can find ourselves really chasing something that is on that materialistic worldly plane. All right. The thing to understand about Rahu is the highest potential, right? Because with anything in astrology, there's going to be the high potential points, and then there's going to be the lower manifestations as well, too. So the highest manifestation of Rahu and the most positive manifestation, if we're working well with Rahu energy, can be success, power, stepping into our power and going towards some sort of desire that will actually bring us fulfillment in this lifetime. So for example, if someone has Rahu with Venus, they get a lot of fulfillment from creativity and from art and from artistic endeavors. They can get a lot of fulfillment when they really achieve some sort of artistic pursuit. For example, Lana Del Rey has Rahu conjunct Venus, and she's been such a powerful artist, right? Because she's gone towards that Rahu energy and she's had that Rahu's success with Venus themes. Okay. Another positive of Rahu is that it will create this energy of unique and individualistic energy. So you'll find people with strong Rahu energy in their chart, which would be if Rahu's conjunct or aspecting personal planets, or if someone has a lot of Rahu-based nakshatras, you'll find that people with strong Rahu energy are very unique and very eccentric, and they embrace their eccentricities in this lifetime. And another aspect of Rahu is it can be very creative because Rahu is wanting to create and it's obsessive, right? A lot of artists you'll find are very obsessive people, right? They have a lot of obsessions. So that's that Rahu energy. It's obsessive, it's extreme. And a lot of times to achieve some sort of goal, we have to be a little bit obsessive towards it, right? Like, for example, I have Rahu aspecting my moon in the 8th house. And I've always been obsessed with astrology since I was younger, right? And, it's been like a lifelong obsession that led into my career, which is lucky that it happened that way. But wherever it's sitting in the chart, there's going to be obsessions around it, right? And again, Rahu, because it is that success in that material plane, sometimes we have to be obsessed with something to reach success. Right? It's like, as strange as that is, that's just the way it goes, right? It's like a talented artist, a talented musician is obsessed with their craft. They're obsessed with perfecting it. They're always going to be focusing on it and putting energy towards it. Okay? If you want to be a great Vedic astrologer, for example, you're going to have to be obsessed with astrology. You're going to have to want to train under different gurus or guides or teachers. You're going to have to want to dedicate many hours of your day to astrology study, right? So that's why Rahu can be powerful when you channel it in the proper way, because if we're obsessed with something and we're going towards something, which is Rahu, that's where we're going towards in this lifetime, we can get success from that obsession that we feel towards it. Okay? Rahu is erratic, it's extreme, and so the highest manifestation is like we're obsessed with something to bring us some sort of success in a way that is healthily channeled, right? Another positive attribute of Rahu would be, learning about something that's new or foreign. So Rahu is foreign, Rahu is unfamiliar. So for example, if someone has Rahu in the 10th house, they can bring like foreign concepts into their career. They can work with people from different cultures. Rahu's in the 7th, they can marry a foreigner, they can connect with people in business from different cultures, so it's also that foreign energy as well too. All right, so the positives of Rahu is we are going towards an obsession in this lifetime that's going to bring us success. We're going to connect with foreign lands, different cultures with Rahu as well too. And another aspect that can be positive within the Rahu energy is that we are learning about something that is unfamiliar or undeveloped for us in this lifetime. All right. So the thing about Rahu is the planets that sit near it, conjunct, aspecting in 5-9 aspect, or, Rahu in different houses. Let's say it's in the 7th house, 1st house, wherever it's sitting, wherever it's aspecting planets, wherever it's going in transit, if we're in a Rahu dasha, we're learning a lot about something that has not been developed in previous lifetimes, if we want to see it like that, right? We don't have to see it in such like a woo mystical way either. If, some people don't always believe in reincarnation or past lives. Let's say it like this. Let's say that Rahu energy is something that isn't innately within us and it's not so easy for us to understand. Okay? So Ketu is something that's just so natural. It comes to us with ease. It comes with this natural flow and synergy to it. But at the same time, when we go too much towards Ketu, we start feeling like it's this void that's like never actually teaching us about the new evolution in this lifetime. So Rahu is where we're evolving and growing and learning the most because it's not well developed in this lifetime. All right? So something that a Vedic astrologer once told me was that it's really positive to work with Rahu energy by learning from someone who has developed that energy well and taking, notes or cues from that person. So for example, someone has Rahu with the sun, following someone or having a teacher or learning from someone who has really healthy ego, or has developed a healthy sense of confidence, or a healthy sense of leadership, or a healthy sense of ego and identity, because that doesn't always come naturally to someone with Rahu Sun. The ego with Rahu Sun can be extreme. It can be up and down. It can be so much ego and so much confidence, and I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm always right. And then other days, the Rahu Sun energy is like, I don't know anything. I don't understand. It's very up and down and illusionary in that way. So to develop that energy, like what would help that is, for example, learning from like a coach or, a guide or a therapist or a healer, whatever it is, that can teach you how to embody healthy confidence and healthy ego without going to those extremes, because it is so undeveloped and it is so extreme, it can go to those places, right? Someone has Rahu with Venus, they should learn from someone who has had healthy, stable relationships, or has been gifted in the arts, or they can have some sort of mentor that's creative. They can really look up to someone who is a talented artist, right? It's like that with Rahu with Venus, because they haven't naturally developed how to have healthy Venus energy. It can be extreme. It can be too much with Rahu, right? Rahu is too much. Rahu is always going to be too much, okay? Ketu is always going to be not enough. It's a void. We're trying to grasp onto it. We're trying to fill it, right? Rahu is always going to be a lot of energy and too much in energy with Rahu, okay? If Rahu is with the moon, someone should learn how to develop healthy emotional reactions, right? Rahu moon people, and I have Rahu moon, so I know it very well, extremes and ups and downs in the emotional nature, and prone to jumping to conclusions or jumping to ideas too quickly, because again, Rahu is not developed, and the moon is the mind and the subconscious and the emotional nature, okay? So it's not been well developed. It's not something that comes naturally. Like when you see people that are never bothered by anything, they're not really, moved, or they're pretty still and stable in their energy, and they don't go to those extremes emotionally, that's not going to be someone with Rahu moon, most likely. That would be more so someone with Ketu moon. Okay, because Rahu's extreme, it's undeveloped, it's up and down, it's obsessive, right? So that Rahu moon energy can also cause obsessions and extremes in the mind and the mental energy as well too. Okay, another example, let's say Rahu is in the first house. Someone should learn how to develop a healthy sense of how they show up in the world without being too much to other people, but also being authentic and stepping into their authenticity, right? It's something that is not well developed yet in this incarnation. So it's something we're learning to develop and learning to have a healthy connection to and towards. Okay? The thing that's very interesting about Rahu is you'll find a lot of people can get that fulfillment from Rahu when they do go towards it and learn how to develop it well. So for example, I've known so many people in my personal life who have Rahu in the 10th house, and they go towards a bigger career, and they actually have so much career fulfillment, and they love to work. They love to have that materialistic success. They love to be big in their fields. They're usually well known in some way, respected in their fields. That's because they're going towards Rahu. Okay? Say Rahu is in the 3rd house, going towards writing, teaching, education, travel. There's going to be fulfillment in those places. Let's say that Rahu is in the 2nd, going towards finances, creating that financial security can bring a lot of fulfillment. As long as it's not too extreme and too obsessive and too up and down, there can actually be a lot of fulfillment with where Rahu sits. Rahu's in the 4th house, someone can, have a lot of happiness when they're home or building a home or having a family or, being home, as interesting as that is. And then Ketu's in the 10th, so letting go a little bit of the career, right? It's like that. It's going between the two energies of the Rahu and Ketu, where Rahu is where we can find a lot of development when we go towards it, and we can also find a lot of peace when we let go a little bit of the Ketu energy as well too. All right, but Rahu, don't kid yourself, is prone to extremes and obsessions and at times, deceit as well too. So if someone has, Rahu in the 7th house, they can attract illusionary or deceitful partners. But if it's well placed, let's say like Rahu is in Virgo, which Rahu and Ketu both do best in Virgo, they can get a successful partner. They can get a partner who has had that material success, right? So you see how there's the different manifestations of Rahu. It just depends how we work with the energy and how we understand the energy and how we're living out our karma in this lifetime, right? It's different for everyone. And what's very interesting is when someone goes into a Rahu dasha, or if someone's having a lot of Rahu energy over their moon or personal planets, there's going to be a sense of a lot of fears and a lot of phobias are going to come up at those time periods as well too, because Rahu is fears. It's something we kind of make up in our mind, right? It's not always real with Rahu. So it's very interesting. Like, someone's entering a Rahu dasha, they have to watch out for, obsessive thoughts and overthinking and anxiety and depression and things like that, because things get very clouded and unclear, and the mind and the judgment becomes a little bit erratic in some regard as well too. Rahu can also show us where we have a lot of fears around that energy as well too, right? It's very this energy of like fears and what if, the what if realm, what if this happens? That's a lot of that Rahu energy as well too. So especially if you're running a Rahu dasha, you want to watch for that energy of extreme fears, extreme thoughts, extreme obsessions, and making sure that those things are actually based in reality and they're not overly delusional or deceitful as well too. What's very interesting about balancing Rahu and Ketu is it's that balancing of the material world with the spiritual world and our current life that we're living and our past lives that we're living. And so it's always this like balancing act, right? Ketu's the past, Rahu is the future. So Ketu is where we've been, Rahu is where we're trying to go in this lifetime. Whether we get there or not, that depends how well developed we are within our, spiritual evolution, essentially. Like, are we going to get there? That's a different story. It's a very different story, which is the beauty of Jyotisha, just to know where your Rahu Ketu is in your chart, or if you're in a Rahu dasha, or if you're having Rahu Ketu over personal planets, it just helps you understand that energy so much more. Okay. And what's very interesting to me about Rahu is you'll find when people are in like Rahu dashas especially, they can start the dasha sequence out really seeking some sort of huge material success, some huge goal. They really are chasing after something. And then by the end of the Rahu dasha, they realize that a lot of the materialistic stuff they were chasing might have brought, momentary happiness or some sort of happiness on the physical realm of existence. But by the end of it, they're actually really interested in pursuing their true purpose and what's going to actually make them happy, more so than just that materialistic success. Okay. A lot of famous people can have Rahu strong in their charts. A lot of famous people can have Rahu with the sun or Rahu on the ascendant, right? Because Rahu is that energy that is wanting to be seen and wanting to be overt and wanting to be extreme and wanting to be out there in the world. So a lot of people who can get fame and get success will have strong Rahu energy in their chart, absolutely. Rahu is also the energy of, following your own path as well too. And if Rahu is well placed and someone is working with Rahu energy well, it can actually be very future oriented and psychic because Rahu is the future, right? So if someone's running a Rahu dasha, they can have a lot of psychic premonitions, which is, we would think a Ketu dasha is like very psychic, and Ketu is spiritual and letting go, yes, but Rahu is the future. And when we are in a Rahu dasha, we can also be very into things spiritual and future projecting as well too. So Rahu, for example, on the moon can also cause a lot of psychic ability and psychic energy because Rahu is the future. But we just have to watch out that it's not deceptive or illusionary psychic information or spiritual information as well too, because that can absolutely happen with Rahu energy as well. So a lot of times as well too, when someone has strong Rahu energy in their charts, they can always feel like an outsider, they can always feel different, they can always feel like an outcast. There's always something different about their energy when someone has strong Rahu. Rahu is a lot of our unconscious desires and our, fears and things that are impulsive. Like the way that I see Rahu is very impulsive energy that we can't always control or understand. So if someone has Rahu synastry with someone else, you can feel really like drawn to that person, addicted to that person, and you don't know why. It's that Rahu energy. It's sort of, primal in that way as well too. All right, and you will find when people have a lot of strong Rahu energy, they've always felt different, they stand out, they're eccentric, they can even look different. If someone has a lot of Rahu-based nakshatras, they'll be kind of electric looking, their eyes can be really interesting, they have an interesting, different look about them as well too. Because again, Ketu is the past, right? So Ketu is where we've already been. It's like that classic look is more of that Ketu energy. Rahu is something we haven't seen yet, so it's eccentric, it's foreign, it's having this different energy pushing us into a new time period as well too. And Rahu also rules technology and social media, so if someone has a lot of Rahu energy, they can find fame or success through social media or through modes of technology as well too, because Rahu is pushing us forward, Ketu is the past. All right, but we absolutely want to watch out with Rahu that we aren't falling into fears and obsessions and phobias and delusions. That's something we always want to check within Rahu synastry, within Rahu dashas if we're running them. Wherever Rahu sits, we can have a lot of fears and obsessions around it. Best believe it. All right, I hope this brought some clarity and understanding into the energy of Rahu. It's a topic that runs so deep that we could never condense it in a little short YouTube video, right? It's truly a lifelong study of what Rahu and Ketu energy is going to represent, how it's going to manifest. We're always trying to understand Rahu and Ketu because they are those shadowy energies of the chart, and they're so karmic, and they're so up and down, and they're so elusive in a lot of ways. So we can't always fully understand Rahu or Ketu, but we can try our best through Jyotisha. All right, comment down below where you guys have Rahu and Ketu in your personal chart. What house? Are you more Rahu dominant, more Ketu dominant? I am actually very Rahu dominant in my chart, which is interesting because, I have a Ketu-like career, so I come across Ketu-like in my work, spiritual astrology, metaphysics, but I'm actually very Rahu in my personal chart. So yeah, fun fact. I look like Rahu too. Like truly, I look like Rahu-based nakshatras as well. All right, more content coming soon. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon, guys. Bye.